Hanson campus at Topeka West High School, and the 11th Annual Graduate Hall of Fame and Distinguished Staff Recognition Program here on Patriots Day. The earliest in the school year that we've ever done this, had our ceremony, which is kind of nice because it's over early. I'm former principal and 1969 Topeka West graduate Steve Roberts. At this time, I would ask you, as soon as the kids get in here, the West Singers are going to do the national anthem and the school song. And so as soon as they get ready to go, we'll ask you, those that are willing and able to stand for the anthem and the school song. So you guys ready?
So if you can, please rise. We didn't bring the school song this year. We brought our signature song, which is called Set Me as a Seal Upon Your Heart.
Love
Thank you, Mr. Huff. Topeka West singers, you guys are amazing. Topeka West's new principal comes to us from Highland Park. I've asked him to say a few words of welcome today. Mr. John Buckendorf.
Good afternoon, I'm John Buckendorf, new principal here at Topeka West High School. And although I'm fairly new to the Topeka area, I'm well aware of the tremendous athletic and academic traditions and accomplishments of Topeka West High School, of the faculty and staff, students, and overall TWHS community. And I find it only appropriate to have ceremonies such as this to recognize those individuals that have gone above and beyond to make Topeka West a great place to go to school. Therefore, on behalf of the Topeka Public Schools Board of Education members, maybe attending via the live stream, Superintendent Dr. Tiffany Anderson, who's joined us here tonight, the staff, administration, and students at Topeka West High School, I'd like to welcome you to the 2022 Graduate and Distinguished Staff Hall of Fame. With no further ado, I'd like to turn it back over to Mr. Roberts to continue on with the ceremony. And thank you. Appreciate it.
Since it's in my script, I'm going to say some of the same stuff he just did too. I want to thank the Topeka Public Schools Board of Education, and especially Superintendent Dr. Tiffany Anderson, whom I don't think has ever missed one of these since she came to Topeka, and I told her a little bit ago, you're the only superintendent that's ever come to one of them, and she's been to all of them. So, Central Office Administration, students and staff at Topeka West, I want to thank them for all that they have done to help make this recognition program possible. Special thanks to the selection committee that meets in April for about an hour and comes up with considers our nominees and whatnot. I'm trying to recruit. I've got some retirees giving up their spot on the committee this year. If you're interested, I'm trying to recruit a few new members, graduates, former staff, whatever, just to help us with our selection of inductees. As is our tradition, I've asked two student leaders to offer some brief remarks this afternoon. The first will be Kyle Tradio, senior class president of the class of 2023. And he will be followed by Amaya Thurman, student council executive president. So,
all right, like you said, I am the class president of 2023. In the brochure and the program, it does say that I graduated a year ago, but trust me, I'm still attending Topeka West. So, first of all, I'd like to just congratulate everyone that's being honored and recognized today. These past few years especially have been tough for many of us, and practically all of us. Especially, however, it has affected many of our students. Some have come into Topeka West on computer screens, others have left them on computer screens. Our class, however, was stuck smack dab in the middle. We are going to be coming in person and leaving in person, even though a good chunk of that middle was spent on computer screens. But that doesn't mean that we can't make as much of an impact as previous classes or future classes to come. We've done many things in order to help promote leadership in Topeka West. Many of our Stuco members work hard in order to make sure that school is a great and safe place to go. With many different things going on in the world right now, school might not seem the safest, but we are making sure that school right now is great for kids to go everywhere. All of our seniors have ambitious goals, and I know that at the end of the year and at the end of the day, they're all going to accomplish great things. But that doesn't mean that we're going to make any less of an impact as the alumni that have come before us either. Because in just a little bit, seniors down the road, maybe we will be the ones sitting in the chairs you are right now, getting recognized. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and like he said, my name is Maya Thurman, and this year I'm the Topeka West Executive President. And much like he said, on campus this year, it has not been hard to see that the past 3 years of school have been very unconventional for everyone. But now more than ever, I think this is when we continue to rebuild and recover from the turmoil of the past few years. We've begun small initiatives in the schools, such as providing free menstrual products in the women's bathroom, simply because that small bit of comfort can make a world of difference for a stressed out teenage girl. Right now, we are planning events for all grade levels to bring the students together and create an environment that can be fun just as much as it is beneficial. We are beginning to give back to our planet and the community around us. For example, last Earth Day, Stuco and the leadership department teamed up to clean up the campus, and we revamped the garden beds and everything like that. And this has become something we want to continue annually because you cannot ignore the difference it made on campus. It was literally crazy. So our teachers have continued to push students and do everything in their power to get us to the next level, whether that is a college or the workforce. They create scholarship books with literally hundreds of scholarships that us seniors can apply for. They get all types of jobs on campus for us to see, and they often spend their afternoons being open to tutoring just so students can truly understand what they're being taught in class. My favorite thing that we do here are the spirit buses we take to away games for football and basketball teams, so hopefully the spirit gets us a big win. But even if we don't win on the field or the court, I definitely think we can say we win in spirit. And so personally, I believe it is the little things like these that can change a student's outlook on the place where they spend their most time. It's the little things like these that we are working towards, so we know that we're in a place where we can be successful both academically and in life, much like the people before me. So as Topeka West continues to grow and time goes on, hopefully the spirit buses and period products never die out, because those are the things that I would say make a world of difference here. Thank you.
great job, guys. I'm not sure if you are aware of this. You kind of referenced it in your talk. You'll both be eligible for induction into the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame in 2048. I want you to know I'm volunteering to MC that program. That's my every year joke for the kids that come to me. At this time, we're going to present the O&M Henson Distinguished Staff Awards for 2022. Dr. Henson was with us for the first 3 years this recognition program, and he was the first recipient of this award, which was then named after him. Upon his passing, he was eulogized in this auditorium. I don't know how many other people that's been done for, if any, but he was truly the first Charger, and as such, the campus was recently named in his honor. He was principal when I was here, and I don't think I ever had a conversation with him, which is probably a good thing. This year, the selection committee chose 3 former staff members to receive the O&M Henson Distinguished Staff Award. Between the 3 of them, they have over 90 years of service to Topeka West High School and Topeka Public Schools. Wow, nearly a century of dedicated service to the West community from just these 3 former staff members. That is amazing. One of our recipients was a 1969 graduate of Topeka West before becoming an anchor in the Family and Consumer Science Department. Another was a Western Kansas girl that became an excellent special education teacher and district consulting teacher. She contributed to Charger athletics to the point where she earned induction into the Topeka West Sports Hall of Fame. Previous to today, I forgot to ask her what year it was, but she, like several of our other inductees, are also members of the Sports Hall of Fame. If I'm not mistaken, she was once the First Lady of Grove City, Kansas, population 99, when her husband Keith was the mayor of Grove City, Kansas. That's the story I heard anyway. Our last recipient is only the 2nd classified employee to be honored with the Henson Award. He is also the first ever staff member to be honored by the Sports Hall of Fame, as well as the Henson Award on the same weekend. Wayne Sherman was our head building operator and has since done what a lot of us will probably end up doing, chasing off out of state to be nearer to grandchildren. So he and his wife recently moved to Colorado Springs, and he was unable to be here, unfortunately. We will start with Georgia Boleyn. Georgia, would you come forward, please? Georgia is a class of 69 Charger and a former Capper Junior High Jayhawk.
The only Jayhawk in my home.
Hey, don't run off. Georgia graduated from Topeka West in 1969. Just a few years later, she joined the staff of the Facts Department, where she was an integral member for 35 years. Throughout those years, Georgia was able to call upon her expertise in all facets of the Facts curriculum, whether foods and nutrition, consumer skills, or child development. She was instrumental in designing a child development lab for students to work in the community at various daycare facilities. Georgia was the Facts Department chairperson from 1995 to 2011. In this capacity, she was able to navigate the paperwork and record keeping necessary to make the department eligible for State Department of Education technical education funding. Among other things, her efforts were largely responsible for the acquisition of a portable computer lab. She was also known as a tireless team player, willing to sponsor synchronized swimming, student council, cheerleading, and class sponsorships, including proms and fundraisers, and occasionally could be seen picking up trash around the campus. Possibly her most important contribution was her ability to develop meaningful relationships with her students. Our first Henson staff winner for this year is Georgia Boleyn.
Well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to my family for coming because Grayson wants to go home, and every time you all clap, he thinks it's time to go home. So Grayson, soon it'll be time to go home. And Ivy is probably waving at me, and Noah and Eli. Anyway, I appreciate all of you coming to do this for me. I am very appreciative of this honor. I actually think it probably means a little bit more to me the fact that I am an alum of West, and I am very aware of all the outstanding educators and support staff that have worked here. And to be considered part of that exceptional group is actually very amazing to me. My department members always cared deeply for our diverse students, and like many here, worked lots of hours behind the scenes to make what we did in the classroom relevant. I cannot mention them all because pretty sure that I will leave someone out. As you all know, I was here a very long time. But I can't leave without saying that I couldn't have had a better mentor than Mary Beth Schroff, or partners in crime and close friends Linda Wardlow and Katie Weir. Thank you all for putting up with me. You sure made work a lot of fun.
Thank you, Georgia, for your many amazing years of dedicated service to Topeka West. Next, I will ask Kathy Kearns to come forward. She may want to correct the record on that whole First Lady thing. After student teaching at Topeka West, Kathy was hired to teach in the Special Education Department. She became the department chairperson in 1983. Herself an athlete, Kathy's contributions to Charger coaching resulted in her inclusion into the Topeka West Athletic Hall of Fame. As head volleyball coach, she lobbied successfully for important upgrades and equipment, which brought the West program to the forefront among their competition. She also coached track and field. Kathy was particularly adept at helping regular education teachers instruct the special education students that were included in their classrooms. Kathy was a highly respected advocate for special ed students, and she was said to have positively impacted virtually all of the students and staff at Topeka West. Eventually, she was able to extend her leadership when she was named District Special Education Consultant Teacher. And in 2001, she was recognized with the Topeka Public Schools Secondary Teacher of the Year Award. Kathy Kearns.
Thank you, Steve, for organizing this event year after year. And thanks to everyone who helps with this day. You are appreciated. Thank you, committee members, for this award. I am truly honored to be here and thought-worthy. Congratulations to Georgia and to Wayne, two well-deserving honorees, and congratulations to the Hall of Fame graduates. Most of you who know me, know that I would rather be behind the scenes working, but we got this letter from Steve telling us how this day would go, and it said if you're not willing to speak, you'll be the first in 11 years. Now, I do like to be in first place, but I didn't think this was the time for that. I'd like to recognize my husband, Keith. And by the way, I was never the first lady because we weren't married. We were dating when he was the mayor. No, but thank you for that. And our daughter, Chelsea, son-in-law, Greg, three amazing grandgirls, Hayden, who are waving, Brooklyn, and Peyton. You may have seen those in the other room. They're not usually quiet or inactive. A shout out to my sister Beth and brother-in-law Bud, and then a shout out to some people that drove here this morning from Winter, Kansas. Keith's brother Kurt and his wife Joni and their kids, Brandon and Haley. Thank you guys. I appreciate your support today and appreciate your support over the years. Thank you so much. And thanks to my friends, many who I met here at Topeka West. As Steve said, I student taught in the area of physical education at Topeka West in 1980. And I'm grateful to Rome Mitchell and Connie Skinner, who were the leaders of Topeka West at that time. They took a chance on this small town western Kansas girl. I bet they had no idea I'd be hanging around 40 years later. There are numerous stories that could be told. I won't bore you with those, but I do want to tell you a little bit about Rome Mitchell tells the story about me and the volleyball equipment, and I want to kind of clarify some things there. When I became the coach in '81, the nets were held up with metal poles set inside old tires and rims and concrete, and it took a lot of help. Thank you, Keith, for showing up some weeks to set those up for tournaments. And then one year we were passed up for regionals because our nets weren't at regulation a lot of the time. So Rome asked me to submit a purchase order for a new net system. He had no idea what he asked for. I submitted a purchase order requesting updated nets that we had at Missouri Western State where I had played. You know, asking he shall receive. The price probably just about threw him in shock, but he got it approved. We never had trouble getting nets to regulation again, and all the visiting coaches and teams were very impressed with our new system. In addition to coaching volleyball, I was an assistant track coach for several years. I had the opportunity to coach and learn from many amazing coaches. Too numerous to name, but you know who you are, and I'm grateful to you all. With very good advice from Rome Mitchell and Randall Walker, I got my master's degree in learning disabilities and special education shortly after I started at Topeka West. Teaching and working with students of varying exceptionalities over the years was amazing. I finished my career as a special ed department chair for the district, leading and guiding teachers to educate all exceptional learners. I met and taught with many amazing and dedicated teachers, paraprofessionals, support staff, and administrators here at Topeka West. I started out with a great support staff at all levels and finished my career with great staff. I've served on numerous committees at Topeka West, the district and state level, and I assure you, one of the best things about Topeka West was always the staff and their ability to step up to help students be their best. They work above and beyond duty day and make sure that Topeka West students are provided learning experiences in every department. I started to make a list of all the people I needed to thank, teachers, staff, administrators, that guided and shaped me into the educator I became. But the list is too long, and I was worried I'd leave somebody out. But you all know who you are, and I thank you. I doubt a day went by here at Topeka West that I didn't learn something from staff or students. And I thank you for that. And my hope is that I return some of that back to you in my 40 years. Again, thank you. I am honored to join the list of distinguished staff members of Topeka West High School. Topeka West really is best.
Thanks, Kathy, for your amazing years of service to West and the district as a whole. Our final recipient today is Wayne Sherman, only the second classified employee to receive this recognition in the history of the program. Wayne and his wife have moved to Colorado Springs to be close to the grandchildren. They've also recently acquired a home, bought a house, I think, out there, and they are unable to be here today. It would have been a pretty expensive weekend considering gas and all that, hotel. They don't have family here anymore. So I talked to Wayne recently, and he's very grateful for the award and wishes that he could be here, especially considering the fact that he was also being inducted into the Topeka West Hall of Fame this past Thursday. It's kind of ironic because Wayne, besides me, is about the only person that's been to every one of these in the past, because he was the guy that come over and turn off the alarms and let me in. And and opened up the bathrooms and turned on the air. And he's been the guy that helped me on ceremony day pull this off for all those years. I will see to it that Wayne receives his various programs, certificates, and the giant cardboard check for $10,000 that all of our honorees receive. I just made that last part up. I'd like to read Wayne's blurb from the program too, because he's had an interesting, impactful life. Prior to his career at Topeka West, Wayne served his country for 20 years in the U.S. Army. As a non-commissioned officer, he was stationed in Germany 3 different times, Bosnia twice, and also saw duty in Korea. After his military service, he came to West as the night shift custodial supervisor and later was promoted to head building operator. In the words of his nominator, who was my predecessor, Mick Lowe, although he is highly competent, he is one of the most selfless, honorable people I've ever met. He cared for Topeka West, what it stood for, and the people who worked, played, learned, and grew here. It was important to him that the facilities were clean and that event support was flawless and timely. And although he was never the center of attention, he was always there to support those who were. Mick goes on to say that Wayne personified the ideal of service above self. He was honored with the Distinguished Staff Award from the school district in 2005. Today, he becomes the second classified member to receive the O&M Henson Award. And anybody that knows him will agree that there is no one more deserving, as he is also being inducted into the Topeka West Athletic Hall of Fame this past Thursday evening. So I'll see to it he gets his stuff, his certificate, and all that. At this point in time, let's see. It took about a decade to fill one. You saw the big plaque down in the other room. Plaque, people call it a perpetual plaque. It took about 10 years to fill one of them with the plates for the staff member honorees. And with our 3 worthy recipients this year, we begin a second perpetual plaque. It will be easy to fill that one too, because there's never been a shortage of great staff members at Topeka West. Let's give today's recipients and their families one more round of applause before we move into our The class of 1967 has struck again. Our first graduate honoree is the 8th member of that class to be inducted in this Hall of Fame. For some reason, the class of 69 has none. Another from the class of 1970 is a PhD lecturer and author, as well as a recognized expert in a wide variety of fields of interest. Also today, from the class of 94, we will induct a renowned physician, an established expert in the studies of prostate and bladder cancers. At this time, I'd like to ask Jim Modic to come forward. Jim was nominated by one of last year's recipients, Dr. Carl McFarland, and by 1977 graduate Jennifer Sanner, an editor of the Kansas Alumni Magazine. They had recently featured an article on Jim's 40-year career as Kansas University architect. I'm going to read from Jim's blurb from the program. Jim retired in January of 2021 from his position as university architect for the University of Kansas. For more than 40 years, he guided the transformation of the beloved Mount Oriad campus in Lawrence through his expert oversight of pivotal construction and renovation projects. Jim graduated from the University of Kansas with a Bachelor of Environmental Design from the School of Architecture in 1973. He came to work in the Office of Facilities Planning in 1979 and became the director in that office in 1987. He managed the physical development of the main campus in Lawrence, the Edwards campus in Overland Park, and the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center in Yoder. Together, these consisted of over 1,000 acres and 11 million square feet of facilities with an assessed value of more than $3 billion. Jim served the university under 6 chancellors, 8 provosts, 4 chief financial officers, and during his lengthy tenure, he provided vision and talent which will benefit KU for years to come. We welcome him today to the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame.
I prepared a few notes here, so let's see if I can get through this. This is a pretty humbling moment for me, and we'll get going. First of all, I need to sincerely thank everyone on the Hall of Fame Committee for their consideration and acceptance of the nomination. This is certainly one of the most meaningful and personal honors I've ever received. A huge thank you to Jennifer Sander and Carl McFarland for submitting the nomination to the Hall of Fame Committee. Some of you may know, and I think it's been mentioned about the number of Hall of Famers from the class of '67. Carrie Lifgren, Cindy Schmidt Heath, Tom Abram, I think I saw Tom out here. Yeah. Dave Rubenstein, Mark Hunt, Richard Ross, and Carl McFarland are all members of the Hall of Fame. And their accomplishments, if you look them up, are pretty amazing. I wouldn't be here today, wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the teachers and the staff at Topeka West, who provided me with a strong educational background that helped set the stage for a 48-year architectural career. During high school, little did I realize how important math and English had in my profession. Writing or developing written architectural program documents, calculating building occupancy loads to managing large building or large projects, budgets, it all goes back to a solid education. Starting at West too, by the way. I'm forever grateful for that foundation. This is a big day for me, something I've never dreamed about. There is someone that I'd like to recognize. Yep, out there wrestling, grandson. This is someone who should be recognized after putting up with me for 54 years. 52 in marriage. And for her, I'll probably always hear about this, date night. If it was date night in the early years, it was a trip to Marvin Hall to work on an architectural project for the next class. So Sue tolerated me quite well. Real quick, family is here. Daughter Sherry, son Brian, daughter-in-law Melissa, call you Mel. Grandkids Amber, Reese, Riker, and Jamie. They're all sitting back there kind of together. Yay. I admit I was a little lost as to what to say today. Over the last 40 years, presentations have been either to the legislature seeking approval of capital improvements, or to the university or community organizations, informing them about projects. In preparing these comments, it dawned on me that my career started and ended very similarly. As was mentioned, I graduated from KU in '73 and went to work for the state architect's office in Topeka. After 2 years there at the state, I was temporarily assigned to the Bell Memorial Hospital Addition project at the KU Medical Center in Kansas City. This was a $57 million project at that year. Today, I think that would be closer to $100 million. The project being constructed is fast track, and there were over 30 prime contracts to manage simultaneously. The project was a million gross square feet and one of the largest complex projects I think you could ever ask to deal with. My association with the Med Center resulted in being recruited by Keith Lawton and Jim Cannell to work at KU to manage their construction projects. So I owe a thank you to Keith and to Jim for encouraging me to come to Lawrence, and as it turns out, a very fulfilling career, one that you could never ask for. I mean, it just is fantastic. During that time period, I was also introduced to Warren Corman, who was the director of facilities at that time at the Board of Regents, and Warren became a close friend and was my mentor. Now, on a little lighter side, all of the planning, design, and construction of campus projects is truly a team effort. The teamwork experience was another skill learned at Topeka West. I participated in football and gymnastics, and surprisingly enough, I enjoyed football a lot, although I was always on the B team. My contribution being the blocking dummy that helped the A team prepare for Friday night's football game. So let's fast forward to 2012. I had an opportunity to lead the university planning process to do what I remember as, or I believe is, the 5th major master plan in KU history. The master plan was completed in 2014, laying the groundwork for major projects, major development projects. In the next 4 years would be 40 projects at $747 million. From 2014 to 2018, there are some projects there that were pretty significant to my career. Reconstruction of Jayhawk Boulevard, Memorial Drive reconstruction, Earth Energy and Environment Center, the new School of Business, Learned Engineering expansion, and the Drew Center, and the list goes on. There is one legacy project, and that is the KU Central Development District project, worth $350 million. It involved 6 buildings covering 45 acres. Prior to this project, KU Science Building had been built prior to man walking on the moon, which seems kind of timely now. There was a serious need for a new facility to allow the state-of-the-art education of sciences and research. The new integrated science facility that we designed and built was set up to change the culture of at the university. And by that I mean the way that we manage the facility and the way that facility evolves over time as the sciences change. Some of the things that we did there was the teaching and research labs all have windows to the public corridors. This was an opportunity for the students to be inspired by an activity in the labs, which may result in a future discovery that will contribute to healthier communities. So as I described this is a very large project, a very complex project, and it was completed in 2018. The legacy, in my opinion, will be the be validated as students academically excel and as researchers collaborate on new discoveries. To think, my interest in architecture started with a drafting class here at West, taught by Arnold Windsor. This is where I drew my first set of building plans. This was the seed that was planted 55 years ago. So thank you to Topeka West for a great education and to the committee for accepting my nomination. Thank you.
Now I'd like to ask Dr. Robert Stevens to come forward. Dr. Stevens has a wide variety of accomplishments and areas of expertise. Let me read from his plaque. You can sit there if you like. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, well, I'm 71 tomorrow, and it won't be long, and I'd just soon be sitting down myself. Since high school, Robert has developed an eclectic array of interests and accomplishments. His expertise extends to fields including photography, lighting design, audio engineering, as well as dance performance and production. From 1981 to 2021, he was a professor of anatomy and neurology at the Kansas City University of Medicine, where he served as chair of anatomy, sharing his passion for anatomy with over 8,000 students in his career. Robert is the author of 6 books on clinical anatomy of the head and neck, clinically integrated neuroanatomy, as well as 3 books on dance medicine. He's a co-founder of the International Association of Dance Medicine and Science. He has been published in numerous peer-reviewed journals and has been involved in over 60 international patents on medical devices and new drug applications. Dr. Stevens has received numerous accolades in his career, including awards for teaching at the local, state, and national levels. He's a 2013 inductee in the Kansas Music Hall of Fame, and now is an inductee into the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame. Dr. Stevens.
To move this microphone down here. This is for people who have hearing aids. So you can hear it all the way in the back. That includes me. Some people wonder about the cane. I don't really need the cane. It's just that these shoes are brand new and the soles are slick as a nut. Ice skating rink, and so it's basically kept me from falling from there to there. So we're done with this. Some things have not changed here. I can still remember Randy Wills up there serenading the prom queen, future prom queen. We won't go into the details of the follow-up on that, like many of our lives later on. It's like the story is a happy ending in some ways. The other things that really haven't changed is like, when are you going to replace these things right here? Because these things right here were there when what is behind this? It's probably Steve Green's drum set. It's probably back in there. He's like, I don't know what's in there, but it's the same wood doors that are back in there. So they mentioned the board of education, right? So there used to be a little building downtown. And so in my year, which 70, so 1969, 68, you know, I was like, oh, I think I'll study this thing called computer. And in order to do the computer, you had this, you know, file index, what would they call them, IBM card, something like that. You know, if you dropped them, you're dead. You know, it's like, you can't get them back together. You have to go down to the Board of Education. They had the only computer. We didn't have a computer. We, by the way, didn't have a swimming pool for synchronized swimming. I don't know, like, where did they do that? I mean, out on the lawn or something like this? Like, well, it'll work fine when you're in the pool, you know, as long as they keep the water down to a reasonable level. But we didn't have a pool. We didn't have as Mr. Roberts said, you'll recognize these campus. I said, man, I don't remember the campus, beautiful campus. He goes, no, it has these prison things around the perimeter, which was a nice touch and prepared me for going through TSA tomorrow. And I did clear, you know, took all my stuff out and so on. My wife said, take your phone with you, you can take your notes with you. And my beautiful wife said right here, I can't say 50-some years, but I wish it was 50-some years, but, and of course, typical of a wonderful marriage of beautiful communication, I left the phone at home. And so, you know, the rest of it is, you know, as Mr. Roberts said, I'm kind of an eclectic individual, kind of a right brain, left brain, as I told my medical students over the years. I said, I believe in the right brain, left brain thing. I said, there's a thing called the corpus callosum where 300 million fibers have nothing else to do than to connect both hemispheres together. And so I've done a little bit of both, and I am honored to be here because when you're 70 years old and you're retired for a couple of years, there's really only one kind of call you get, and that is, hi, I'm Medicare. I'm Medicare Life Extension Plan. And I said, well, I don't know about the life extension thing, but I already have the Medicare. Like, but would you be interested? And then the other call that you get is, we're calling to refinance your house. And you go like, well, give me the interest rate, sir. And go like, yes, your interest rate will be 5.9%. And we're like, that's fine. It's just a little bit lower than my credit card debt, but that's fine. And who is this again? Jimmy Carter. Oh, thanks, Jimmy. But it was, you know, and then of course we get the one call. It's like, well, you're being inducted into the Topeka West Hall of Fame. And we're like, huh? What is that? So that was a good call. The rest of them I pretty much blocked. And nothing would be more complete than to talk about a person who's very, very important to me and been a lifetime important to me, and that is Ed Scarlett. And Ed Scarlett is a legend here. People say, well, what did he teach? And he taught typing, which, by the way, was the only skill in high school that I learned that I still use. And, you know, so what about balancing the checkbook? And I'm going like, I have a computer that does that. Now, Craig doesn't have a computer. He told me, he said, I don't have a computer, I don't have a tablet, and I don't have a phone. That's the way it works. So we don't communicate a whole lot. Usually smoke signals between here and there. But anyway, he taught typing, but he was an amazing personality, quiet, direct, look you in the eye type of leader that inspired you to do great things. And as Mr. Roberts said, I guess he was fairly new as a wrestling coach when he came here. Yeah. And so I was a sophomore as a wrestler, and we won Sunflower League, we won the district. We had 8 out of 12 guys that were sophomores. We thought we were really something, you know, at that point in time. But life eventually, you know, resizes your head. And So anyway, he was a great guy, and so early in my sophomore career, and I know I'm not supposed to talk about these high school things, but it's a really measure of a great person, not me, but Mr. Scarlett, Coach Scarlett. I lost a match at Highland Park. I was mad. I mean, just typical, like your age 15 mad thing. I'm gonna stomp off the mat. I'm gonna go into the boys' locker room. They call it the boys' locker room then. And boys' locker room, and slamming steel doors. They're okay. And throwing them. It lasts about 30 seconds, right? And I'm just sitting there, and then Coach Scarlett walks in, and just looks at me. And I remember this like it happened 15 minutes ago. And he said, coaches, they always put a Y on your neck. Like, Bobby, if you ever come off that mat, he wasn't Southern. I don't know why I gave it a Southern accent to him at all. He said, Bobby, if you ever walk off that mat again without looking me in the eye and shaking my hand, you'll never wrestle for me again. Now, he was also a football coach, too. And I looked at him and he was like, this is serious. And I never forgot that. And so it doesn't make you different. I don't care if you win or you lose, anything. You need to be able to take it with dignity. And he was the real deal. 50 years later at the reunion, I talked to one of my classmates who took care of him in his final time at the hospital. I said, how was Coach Scarlett? And he said, he's just the same, just 100% authentic, outstanding guy. So you fast forward in my lifetime to my 40 years of teaching, there was in the back row, there was about 200, the classroom about 250 people. The back row, 4 guys sitting back there, and they had a girl with them that was kind of their buddy. And they're always sitting back there. Now I know the good doctor probably understands what I'm saying, is that the people who sit on the back row sit back there because it's close to the door. And sometime if you if you suck as a lecturer, I think you said suck earlier, is that okay to say that? If not, I don't get the award. And so anyway, they're sitting back there, and because if you suck, they go like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and then you never see them again. But they always sat back there. So I went back there and talked to Gary Sanderson. I remember him very clearly. I said, Gary, why are you guys are always here? He said, I put down asphalt in Alabama in August. This is a pretty good deal. It's air conditioned, there's no hot asphalt. I guess, well, does that mean I'm a pretty good lecturer? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that it's pretty comfortable back here. And I said, so what brings you? He said, our coach. Oh, your coach. He said, our coach was like our surrogate father to us. All of them were from different areas of the country. He said, our coach was a surrogate father. When that coach said you need to straighten up, you got a curfew, I catch you out after curfew, there's no second chance. This is just one. One, that's it. And you're off the team. And their line was, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for our coach. Telling, straighten us up, squaring us away. And now, when I graduated from KU graduate school in Kansas City, Kansas, I wrote my doctoral dissertation, and in the acknowledgement, the person who was acknowledged was Ed Scarlett, because he was the one of the important people that squared me away, that got my mind set into a decision-making mode that was a lot more productive for me. And so after I left here, I went to Washburn University, and I thought I'd start out with a major in mathematics and theater. Talk about a right brain, left brain thing. And theater I did okay, math not so much. Washburn kind of had, I think it was a school motto, as a matter of fact. It said, and the motto said, a C is a good grade. I'm like, well, what's a D minus? It's like, well, it's okay grade. It's an okay grade. Now, I do know when I took calculus, there was one person that got an A, and he's in the room right now. And there was the other person that got about 21 hours of C. And that was a good grade. And that's what they kept telling me, that was a good grade. In 40 years of interviewing people going to medical school, I've never seen anybody that had a C in calculus. Now, apparently it has changed into the new calculus since when I was going through, because the old calculus, there were no, there's only one A. And now everybody got an A in calculus. So in my retirement, I'm going to take calculus. If I get a C again, I'm probably going to be on suicide watch probably for a week or two. And but while I was at Washburn, I started working with the exceptions. They're here, the essential original band members. Randy and Craig and Steve are here, and I'm honored that they're here, and that they carried me along as baggage into the Hall of Fame. And that's probably I might have been the first audio lighting guy ever in there, and probably the last. But we had a great time doing that artistic thing, and I met my mentor, and this is really kind of the subtext of a lot of what I have to say. Mentors. It's not really about me. It's about mentors, people that bring you to a new level of achievement, and that was Dr. Thomas O'Connor. And Dr. O'Connor, Father O'Connor, we called him because he was just kind of a father figure to us. Very quiet, inspirational, precise teacher. One that really actually brought out your ability to learn new things. And I always admired the way he taught. I always strived to be as good of a teacher as his. After 40 years, I never made it. So I might revisit that a little bit later on. But so after Washburn, Dr. O'Connor was very, very instrumental in me going on to the University of Kansas in Kansas City for my PhD in anatomy, neuro. And I had another mentor there, Dr. Howard Mosky. He was kind of a different kind of mentor. It kind of like for some of us who get older, you get more into grandparent age, where the grandkids are climbing on your head. You would have grounded your kids, but your grandkids are doing all sorts of stuff, and your sons and daughters were like, you would have never let us get away with that. And we're like, with their grandkids, let them climb on your head, that's fine. Mosky was kind of at that stage of his life where he allowed me, go ahead, do this thing, go ahead, go into photography, go into the world of ballet, go into modeling, whatever I wanted to do. And I think he probably said this to see whether or not you fail in that process. It turned out to be good for us. And anyway, and so I graduated pretty, did fine with that, and did a lot of other things in parallel, because there are some things you can't do when you're older. And so I started, after that process, after I graduated, founded the International Association for Dance Medicine Science, kind of a spin-off of my interest and activity in the world of dance. And now it's in hundreds of countries and has thousands of members that reach out and help dancers. Because the bottom line is, and this applies to so many different things, I never met the principal of Speak West, because, I had Ed Scarlett, who basically said, you do that and you're out. And I think he was present when I got my polio shot. It was like right over there. And I haven't got polio since then, and I'm not going back to the area of the principal's office. So in any case, so we started that, and I did that for, 20 years and was involved in that until, if you've ever run an international organization, there's a life cycle to it. You start out, you're the founder, you're the charter, this, that, and then there's the new people come in and go like, well, we know how to do it. And we know how to do it the right way. And what you're doing now is not the right way. And you go like, you know what, you're right, I'm out. And you turn it over to the Young Turks to take over. So, in the 90s, I returned to my passion, my love, which is academic love, was neuro. And my mentor was Dr. Robert Addington, who became I mentored him, and then he mentored me, and now he still calls me up and, mentors me or torments me one way or another. And he was instrumental in many of our patents. And I came across the thing the other day that Thoreau was supposedly the person who brought out the number, this happened to be here, the number 2 pencil. He brought out the number 2, he made this pencil popular, which probably, contributed to my C in calculus, more or less. But what people don't realize about patents is that it's one thing to have the idea. I said, how hard is that? It says somebody invented the pencil. And it was actually a tree that fell over and had this graphite and like, hey, look, you can mark on stuff here. And, people are wondering like, well, that's like an Egyptian tomb when you just, wrote your name on, Jerry and Jill Love. And, but 60 years later, after Thoreau came up with that, somebody came up with the idea for an eraser. And made it out of rubber, as a matter of fact. They called it a rubber, and later on it took on other meanings. But anyway, the point is, there are things every day that are patentable. Just go to it, patent it. And so we did that, and we spent 25 years with the FDA, one of the fastest moving bodies of regulatory bodies in the government. People think, well, you meet with the FDA, it's like meeting with a bunch of physicians who are practicing physicians who really actually take care of patients. No. It's like meeting with your CPAs for a tax review. It's like, let's take a look at the numbers. So suffice to say that everything I've heard about the FDA in the last couple of years is not the FDA that I've had experience with. So I retired in 2021, something like that, early 2021. And for a while I kind of sat around going like, man, what am I going to do? And you got all these DIY projects. I certainly did not make this wood plaque in front of the lectern because my woodworking skills are not adequate for that. And but so those are you wake up. So you sit there and you watch YouTube all day long, right? And I'm watching YouTube and I'm watching this guy named John McPhee. His nickname is Shrek. I call him Yoda now because he kind of morphed into this philosophical. So he said, I retired after 20 years with, I know, just cut this off, we're at the end. And he said, I retired after 20 years in the military. He said, is this going to be my final chapter? 20 years. He said, I'm 40 years old. I said, is this going to be my final chapter? And I got to thinking about that. I said, that's pretty meaningful. Do I want all this stuff, my teaching, whatever, to be my final chapter? And so I started a company called Clinical Brain Trust, which is basically for all the retired academic master teachers to be locum tenens, to come out and teach courses around the world, really. And it's a pretty good deal for residency programs and for medical schools, because they're all looking for. All of us have graduated and or retired. And so it's up to you to decide whether or not this is going to be your final chapter. what is it, what's it gonna mean? You decide if it's if it's your final chapter, and if it's your best chapter. I haven't decided it yet, so I'm still working on a final chapter. Thank you very much for this honor and the time, extra time.
Now, our final inductee, Dr. Ronald Chin, if you would come forward. He is our 5th Hall of Fame inductee that is a physician or medical researcher. He was nominated by his fellow 94 Charger graduate, Ryan Raimondo, who I don't think was able to be here today. After graduating from Topeka West in 1994, Ron continued his studies at the University of Kansas, graduating in 1999, and from there went on to Harvard Medical School, graduating with honors in 2004. He completed his residency at Harvard in radiation oncology, including service as chief resident in 2009. That same year, he earned his Master of Public Health degree, also from Harvard. After 10 years on the faculty at UNC Chapel Hill, he returned to KU as the endowed professor and chair of the Radiation Oncology Department at the KU Cancer Center. Ron is an internationally renowned expert in prostate cancer. He has published over 200 scientific articles, 2 textbooks, and many other book chapters. He's received more than $30 million in research funding and has lectured across the U.S. and internationally on prostate and bladder cancers. He is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the National Cancer Institute, Cancer Spectrum. He also sees patients on a monthly basis at the University of Kansas St. Francis campus in Topeka. Ron is an intellectual, a trailblazer, an invaluable asset to his community, and now a member of the Topeka West Graduate Hall of Fame. Dr. Chin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts, and I want to echo what Mrs. Kern said, which is thank you for the hint to not be the first person in 11 years not to give a speech at this event. So when I was a freshman at Topeka West, I had only been speaking English for 2 years. In middle school at Jardine, I was in ELS, English as Second Language. And I'll tell you a not so funny story, which is that ELS class twice a week actually conflicted with my art class. So twice a week, my art teacher thought I was skipping class. And at the end of the semester, I got a C on my transcript, one of the very few bad grades that I've ever had in my career. But I had very little language skills back then to communicate what was happening to my art teacher, and apparently the school forgot to tell her also. So I started at Topeka West, having only been in this country for 2 years, and still not speaking English very well. And if you can imagine, it would take me 2 to 3 times as long every night compared to my classmates doing homework, because reading assignments, whether it was social studies textbook or reading for the English class or even science textbooks, I could not read very well. And so I would always have my little English-Chinese dictionary next to me so I can translate the text that I was reading. I had many teachers in high school that had a huge impact on my life, and perhaps no one had a bigger impact than my freshman English teacher, Mrs. Teresa Steinlacke. Mrs. Steinlacke easily recognized that I had language struggles, and very early on recommended that I have an English tutor. And in fact, she found a tutor for me, somebody who was teaching writing at Washburn, and I was able to meet with this tutor for 3 years during high school. And with the tutoring, with the great teachers I had here and with an excellent education I received at Topeka West, I was able to leave here as a very solid writer, and I was prepared to succeed at KU and in my career subsequently. So my high school teachers changed my life, and words cannot adequately express the magnitude of impact Topeka West and Topeka West teachers and staff have on this community and on all the kids who grew up in Topeka. So thank you very much for this honor. I am humbled. My life now as a cancer doctor and researcher involves me often traveling across the US and also internationally to give lectures on the latest advances in cancer treatment. Perhaps my favorite part of my job is to take care of patients back at home at KU and here in Topeka. And in fact, I'm seeing patients tomorrow at St. Francis. And I hope that that's my way of making an impact on this community. Thank you for this award. Thank you to Dr. Anderson, Mr. Uckendorf, the teachers and staff for all that you do. Thank you.
I'd like to close today's ceremony with some words of thanks. First, to our recipients and their families and friends that came from near and far to honor them today. Thanks to Principal John Buckendorf and the students and staff at West for their support of this Hall of Fame and Distinguished Staff Award recognition program. Special thanks to my friend and retired Charger teacher, Mike Boyer. Go like this, Mike. There you go. Mike is I call him my tech guy, and he puts together the program and does many other things that he's willingly helps for very little pay, as in none. Many thanks to the Topeka West High School Alumni Foundation that provides the funding that makes this event possible. If the spirit moves you to help ensure that future events like this take place, they would be most pleased to accept your donations. If you'd like to nominate a grad or former staff member for recognition, you can contact me through the school, and I will guide you through the semi-painless process. Please join me one last time in congratulating our inductees and our Henson recipients, and we'll see you next year when we welcome you back to the O&M Henson campus at Topeka West High School with a new group of honorees. Anybody have a Chiefs score? Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next year.